Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hopefully you are well, as am I. Well, that's actually a lie. I am not well. I am under the weather, and you'll probably pick up on that a little bit during this show, but hopefully you're well and you don't have whatever it is I have. Let me see what this sounds like on my phone real quick. Okay, yep, I can hear myself. So I like that, and my levels look good here and on studio monitor. So if you can't hear me well enough, you may need to adjust your speakers, or you can wear headphones, like my friend Angus is doing. He's already here in the chat, getting things going for us, which I really appreciate. Good morning, Angus. Hopefully you are well and don't have what I have. Since the subject is binaural audio, I suppose that I should wear headphones. Only if, by the way, you are hoping to hear the complete range of the RE20, whatever that is, pass through YouTube, because who knows what they do to it. But, there it is. Yeah, binaural audio is pretty notorious for sounding like mono through speakers. That's the truth. Headphones are really the only way to get the full effect. But audio is present, and we can hear you hearing yourself. Okay, so the microphone is working well, evidently. So yeah, I came down with something. Thankfully, Angus doesn't have it. I'm well, but tired. Been on the road for the last week. Yeah, that'll do it to anybody. I know that I picked mine up from my family because they have kind of had this off and on sore throat for the past week, my wife in particular. And she recovered, and we were all good to go. And then a couple of nights ago, I just could feel it coming on. And I knew that it was going to be the rest of the week I was going to be fighting it. So I'm all hopped up on multivitamins and zinc and acetaminophen and coffee, mostly coffee. So, that's how we're getting through. And I feel good otherwise. The sore throat's kind of going away. I just definitely feel like my energy has been depleted. So we'll soldier on. We'll get through today's topic. I the first thing is today's non-sponsor, of course, is Tim Hortons. That's all I'm going to say about there. Canadian coffee, Canadian company. With the sidebar that I was thinking about bringing a cup of coffee up for the show. I left the pre-show, as you probably saw if you were here early, and came back with coffee. But I actually just decided to bring the whole pot with me this time. And so this is filled with coffee and half. And now I can just pour half cups, because what regularly happens is I pour a whole cup and I sit here and then I talk for an hour and a half. My coffee goes cold. So now we are trying a different stance, where we're going to pour half cups of coffee, but have the entire thing in like a thermos so it stays nice and warm. So there you go. They are definitely not a Canadian company anymore. Yeah, it's really kind of a sad story with Tim Hortons, because when I was traveling through Ontario in early this month, I kind of got a lesson in how non-Canadian it is anymore, which is sad, because that's one of those things it's one of those historical things that you hoped wouldn't get traded off, in the name of the highest bidder. But anyway, it's a shame that it's not really Canadian anymore, although that's where it started, and that's where it should have stayed. Anyway, I digress. So I have, for many years, never really said this right. It's binaural audio. Binaural as in nausea. Binaural audio. And I had to Google it and I'm probably still saying it wrong. But this today's show is about recording audio as if our ears are hearing it. And to Angus's point earlier here in the chat, this style of recording is strictly left and right channel. That's the point. and it is more about shaping the sound waves before they make it to the microphone. Our ears are shaped in a way, as human beings are shaped in a way, in a very specific way, and it is how we hear things. However, it is not necessarily how sound is produced. Okay, so the way we hear it actually changes the sound waves because of the shapes of our ears. But if you were to play an instrument, for example, and record it left and right, it doesn't necessarily sound the way that your ears hear it. And this is why if you take a raw recording of an instrument and you take earbuds and you stick them into your eardrums and bypass the whole hearing system that our bodies have designed, then it's a different sound. A lot of times people say, well, I was there, you should have been there, that phrase, oh, you should have heard it at the concert. And the reason they're saying that is because there's a sound engineer who is manipulating the sound to maximize the way that humans hear it so that you have this experience while being at the concert or whatever it is. And you can't reproduce that just by holding up a microphone, because the microphone is then capturing the sound waves the way that they are coming out of the speakers, but not necessarily the way that your ears are hearing them, which is kind of a wild, like Rubik's Cube concept, right? That the sound that's coming out of the speakers is not actually the sound that you're hearing in your head, because your body and the bodies around you are changing the sound waves before they make it to your ears, and then your ears are shaped in a way that it is shaping those sounds as well. So the idea of recording sound the way that we hear it is has always been very interesting to me. And then you can kind of complete the circle by wearing headphones and listening to the recording done on a binaural. This is really annoying. We should ask the interwebs how I should be pronouncing it. But anyways, if you record it on a device that's designed to shape the sound waves like your ears are listening to it before it hits the microphones, it becomes a lot more closer to what it actually sounded like when you go to reproduce it and listen to it inside your ears. Now, there are several companies out on the market that do this. The most notorious just by name, not that they are doing something nefarious or something like that, but the most, what's the phrase? Where are we here? Why did it do that? Sorry, I'm trying to get my screen to behave here. The most notorious is the wrong word, but I'm a little under the weather and I haven't had enough coffee. Actually, I have had enough coffee, but that's you never really reach that point. Is a company called 3DO, and they make very commonly used microphones that do just this. This is their base model, and I actually like the fact that they showcase on their 3dostudio.com website, they showcase this device as their flagship product. This is I bought the first gen or maybe second gen of this product long ago for an institution that I used to work for, Binaural. Thank you, Angus. I appreciate that. You got it right. Binaural. Okay, let's go with that. So this microphone is the OG, and this is kind of the one that I discovered through a YouTube video of a guy that was in New York City. Now, we've talked about this video before, and if you want to check this out after the show, I can put it in the chat so you can listen to it. He does two videos. One, he talks about what it is, like what it actually is. But then this is almost like 12 years ago now. He talks about what it is, so he gives like a really cool explanation as to how this works, and lots of examples and all of that. But then there's a second video that he has that talks about, that is just purely 3D audio in New York City. And again, like 10 years ago. So if you had been to New York back in the mid 2010s, early 2010s, mid 2010s, you would recognize the way that this sounds. And, you know, the city has changed a fair bit over the ages, but these two videos are the ones that I discovered many years ago, 10 years ago, that tuned me into what this is. And as a matter of fact, these specific speakers that are this microphone that are being used. And so check out those videos later on if you're interested, because, I'm sorry, I did them backwards. The second one is the explanation. The first one is the bonus footage. So check those out when you get a chance, because I was really surprised and impressed with the way that it sounded. And he advises you to wear good headphones, you know, and I, at the time, owned this set of headphones right here. You know what I'm going to say. These are the Audio-Technica M50S's, the straight cable. You can't buy these anymore. These are older models, but they do make the M50s still. The M50X's they make. And great headphones for not a super expensive price. You can pay whatever you want for a set of headphones, but really great headphones. So I listened to those videos and was just super impressed with it. Just was super impressed with the way that it worked out. Then we were trying to figure out how to record a choral group. Something had happened in the community that was associated with the college at the time, and we needed to record some audio. And I had, in the meantime, put in a purchase order for one of these microphones in the hopes that we could simply record audio quickly. And set up one microphone, plug it into a field recorder, and off you go. And so I had put in a request. It had gotten approved, astonishingly enough. And this was when they were a couple of $100. They were only like $300, I think, at the time. Now, I believe that the price has gone up since then. They're now $400 for this unit, and maybe it was that price. But for their base unit, it's like $400. And then, of course, you can get the XLR version, which is $750, and the Pro 2, which is, for some reason, $2,200. Now, it has all the connections. You know, it has, I don't know why it's $2,200. But anyways, the FreeSpace one is really their kind of flagship. And if you were getting into this and wanted proof of concept, or just wanted to get off of the ground running, then this is a purchase that could make sense for what it is that you're looking into. Anyways, you know, we had that microphone. We used it for a few recordings. It was great. And people would listen. So I posted, for example, a recording of a choral group, and I posted it on YouTube. And people watched it and listened to it on their computers and phones and whatever. And in the comments, in the description, I said, you know, for a different experience, use headphones. And so a few people discovered that if you wear headphones, it's a different sound entirely. And I completely agree with that. And what Angus had said here earlier on in the show is that generally, if you listen to the microphones as they are, like through just computer speakers or whatever, it sounds very mono. That's true. It doesn't really have much dynamic range. But if you wear headphones and you're using this as a listening experience, then it really changes the dynamic of the music, because it was recorded the way that our ears hear sound. And I can demonstrate this a little bit here just so that you can visually see what it is I'm talking about. So I have my Apache 4800. Thank you, everybody, for the recommendation of just going to Harbor Freight. I took this guy to camp with me, and it housed all of my equipment. So I have my binaural earmuffs. The microphone is in here. All of my lenses are in here, and just tons of stuff. And the microphone is in here. So I was able to record all of we do like classes at camp just for a couple of hours a day. And I was able to record those plus any kind of presentation or special thing. We had a couple of guys that were longtime campers with us who came back for one last trip. And so I was able to record a couple of, things that they did for us. And it worked really well. And all I had to do was run a very long extension cord to a 3.5 millimeter jack, left, right, and all the way back to my field recorder, which is just a little Zoom F1 belt-packed field recorder, which just plugs into a battery bank. You can also use AAA batteries, which are pretty easy to swap out, and the battery life is very dependable, very reliable. So that I put batteries in, but I also plugged it into a battery bank in case the connection to the battery bank failed or something like that. It would just fall back to battery and never turn off. That was very handy because the first day I was having I had like a cheap cable that wasn't working very well. And the next day my friend gave me a better cable and that one worked much better. But having batteries as backup options was very useful. So I have this little F1 Zoom field recorder. This was fairly inexpensive at the time. I don't know if you can buy them anymore, but I just run that from this 3DO microphone, 3.5 mil, which runs off of a 9-volt battery. And we talked about powering options for this, but we just decided to go with batteries because the expected life of the battery is like 300 hours. So I recorded a few hours, days 1 and 2 on one battery and swapped it out for days 3 and 4, and it operated just fine. Never had any issue. Ran probably like 6 or 7 hours on each battery, which is way like underused for 9 volts, but I just didn't want to run any risks. So brand new batteries halfway through the trip, and it worked great. But this is what that microphone is, and it has these little silicone ears that feel and look a lot like human ears. You'll notice they're upside down, and that's done for a reason, for my own personal reasons. But they're upside down, and I would just put the earmuffs on this and place this on a tripod facing the keynote, okay? As if it was somebody sitting in the audience listening to our keynote classes. And you'll notice that this is actually pretty close to the width of someone's head. So these ears are generally the same distance as my ears. And that's by design. That's so that the distance is correct. If they were squished together or too far apart, the timing, that sound waves, they're just slightly different when they hit the microphone ears. And that's just the nature of sound. And that's one of the things that really makes this an interesting listening experience, is that this is the same distance, which means that timing is basically perfect for the way that the audio level, the audio waves hit our ears when we heard it live. It's recorded the same way. And these little silicone ears, it's like, why do you need ears? Well, that is also shaping the sound waves as they're bouncing about and hitting the ear. And the sound wave is then being formed that goes into our ear cavity. Same way that microphone is buried down inside that ear cavity, behind a windscreen, mind you. And it allows the microphone to listen, again, the same way that your eardrum is listening. So those waveforms are getting channeled and manipulated and funneled down an ear canal through bouncing off this silicone ear and then being shaped so that it sounds exactly the same as it was when you listened to it. Now, the disadvantage is that, of course, if you listen to it without headphones, it pretty much does sound mono, because there's no differentiation. The timing is all smashed together when you're listening out of bigger speakers. And many people are mixing for bigger speakers. They're not mixing for the way that it truthfully sounded at the location. However, I think that if you're going to record a lecture or you're going to record a choral group, putting it in a surround sound recording system is really only beneficial for those who are listening to it in a big sound system to begin with. Most people are going to be listening to Spotify or your choral recordings or your lectures with headphones on. And this then gives you more versatility when it comes to your target audience if they are listening to your recordings via headphones. If they're listening to it on a phone, it doesn't really matter how many microphones you used, like it really doesn't. And those phone speakers are going to suck all the dynamic out of the song or out of the recording anyway. So it doesn't really matter. You want to be sure that it sounds normalized for the most part. But if they're using headphones, well, now we have an option. It can sound mono, which is what it would kind of sound like if you mixed it for a big surround sound system and funneled it through headphones. Or we can try and capture the way that our ears would have heard the sound and reproduce that. So when we put headphones on or earbuds in, it actually sounds the way that it did in the location. So this is becoming more of an option, I'll say, in the world of recorded audio, mostly because the way that people consume audio is pretty generalized, right? A lot of people are on the go. They're putting something on in the car. They're, listening to podcasts or whatever that way. Maybe they're listening to their favorite music. And it's fun to have dynamic, but does it really benefit the listener in much? This is one of those who is your audience questions, and how much effort, what sort of return on investment are you getting for all the effort you're putting into recording somebody and processing that through Logic Pro or Ableton or whatever the software it is that you're using. If you're doing a lot of things with effects, if you're trying to manufacture a sound with effects, and it was captured on a mic. Here's the other thing: is okay, we have a singer. They're on a stage. We're recording their microphone, and then we're going to take that raw track and we're going to add ambience or reverb or whatever. Well, what if you just focused on the way that it sounded in the room? You put this in a position where the person would have been listening, the optimal listening position in the room. Put this there. And then you worry about the way the room sounds, and you just capture that. This will provide you with the reverb in the room. It will provide you with any effects on their channels, the way that it's coming out of the speakers and being heard by the audience. This will reproduce that exactly how people heard it. So I find that the only real reason not to use this is because you get a lot of questions. What is that? Is normally the question that I get. I have shut down 2 TSA lines with this microphone because it's in my carry-on, and I take the battery out of it, but I put it in my carry-on because I'm not checking a bag, and I always get flagged, and they open it up and they look at this and they're like, what on earth is this thing? And I have to explain, it's a 3D microphone. It records sound the way that our ears hear it. That's why there are ears on it. It's a little circuit board with a 9-volt battery attached to it, which there isn't a 9-volt battery in there, but it's a mountable microphone. A little simple on-off switch, and the bass roll-off, I believe it's at 80 hertz. So if you don't want to record the low end, which I don't really know why you wouldn't, I don't know of a situation right offhand that I wouldn't want the full range captured. Because, again, I want it to sound as close as the real thing as possible. And so when I record concerts or bands or something like that, and they want a recording of themselves, but maybe they eventually want to this would be a super easy way to record a chorus, a choral group. Put this in the middle of the auditorium, the ideal spot for hearing. And if you're going to use choral microphones or whatever and an amplify system, put this right in the middle of the auditorium. Because when the group stops singing, the echo through the cathedral or wherever it is that you're hearing it also gets picked up through this microphone. So you don't need to do any mixing per se. You need to make sure that the mix in your house is as perfect as it can be so that this picks up the way that it sounds. And then you just reproduce this as your choral tracks. So ideally, I love this microphone for several applications, and simplifying live recordings is one of those. I recently used it on a trip to Northern Ontario where I was recording some classes, lectures, whatever you want to call them. And we had people in the class contributing to the content. In the past, I've used my little Rode microphones, and that only picks up the teachers talking. Doesn't pick up the audience. This I could put kind of at the front of the class, and when people are talking to the teacher, those sound waves are going past the microphone, and we can hear them the same way that the class can hear them, right? And so it captures the entire discussion as well as the actual keynote. My brain immediately goes to the idea of scanning my own ears and 3D custom printing ears for a mic like that. Wind noise, nearby trains, constructions with a couple of miles. Yes. So it does pick up everything. And the point, and this is a good example that Angus brings up, is in Northern Ontario, there is, near most civilization, there's a train line. And so if a train goes by, you're going to hear it. Now, there is some things that you can do inside like DaVinci and whatever that you can remove some of the background noise. For example, one day we were fighting some loons that were out on the water calling to each other and eating and whatever. And they were calling back and forth. Well, inside DaVinci, you can use the paid version. You can use a function called reduce background noise or reduce or noise isolation or something like that, where it can take out, you know, some of the background noise that's bouncing around, but it's on a scalable dial. So if you have something happening way off in the distance, you can turn that dial up to like 50% and you still get ambient sound, but it turns down that sound that's kind of in the background, that hiss or the hum or the loons or the train or whatever, and keeps the voices present. And the whole point was to have context as to where, you know, the conversation happening and where it was happening in the group. So with a microphone like this, you can definitely pick out where people are sitting in the group, right? So that's why you place it facing the keynote. And so then in the headphones, it sounds like they're directly in front of you. But then when somebody talks, contributes to the conversation, and that's happening over your shoulder, you can actually pinpoint where that is because those sound waves are traveling to this ear first. And then the timing thing, remember, they're going around your head and entering this ear slightly later. When you're wearing headphones and you're listening to this recording, that timing is then accounted for. So then you can hear them over your shoulder instead of it sounding mono, like everybody's voice is coming from the same place. So it's a really cool way of using sound stages to your advantage. How sound is being produced and where it's being produced. The choral group that I think I have put the YouTube video in the chat before, but it was a choral group and they were standing in a circle around the microphone. And so they had different sections and they were each singing their individual parts. There's 8 sections in a chorus, in a vocal chorus typically. So first and second sopranos, first, second alto, first, second tenor, first, second bass. And they're standing kind of staggered around, but in general groups. And so when the basses hit a note, you can hear where the bass section is. You know, when the altos are singing a dissonant note to the lead, you can hear where the alto section is compared to where the sopranos are. So it does allow you to capture the soundstage that it is that you're creating, or the chorus is creating, or the group is creating, by accurately recording the timing that's happening and allowing those sound waves to be formed in a way that our ears are actually listening to it. Fighting some loons. Foul play, don't play fair. It's true. They don't realize that we're having an intense discussion at between 10 and 12, and they should hush their beaks. But whatever, we got through it. It wasn't a huge deal. And it's one of those things about Northern Ontario that you just learn to appreciate because, you know, it's pretty cool to have that happen. They called to each other for a while, and then they were swimming and diving and feeding right off the shore from where we were hanging out, which was really cool. All right. What is going on? CNS Piece 777. Hey, coming from a DJ world to broadcasting, I have to buy new mics. I finally grabbed the Audio-Technica AT984. I wanted similar results to this in my garage. Decent. I still need lots of gain. Angus, well, let's look up that microphone just a second there, 777. Ambisonic is also a neat way to create binaural audio from the basics like the Zoom H3 VR all the way up to something like the Core Sound Auto mic. Okay, let's look up a few microphones here because this is useful. So first, the Audio Technica, which would be AT984. All right, this microphone is a shotgun microphone. Now, one thing to be cautious of with a shotgun mic like this is they perform immensely well outside. But if you are to use them inside a studio or in a space that's going to bounce around a lot of sound, like if you don't have a wide open space, then indoors, like a big studio or a garage or something like that, then you might pick up reverb or echoes or delay inside the microphone capsule because although you'll be speaking directly to the shotgun microphone, it won't do a great job of rejecting the reflection of the sound as it bounces off the wall, bounces off this wall, and comes back into the capsule. So shotgun microphones ideally are always outdoors, and that's the ideal place for them. Or you'll notice a lot of modern day podcasters have these huge wide open spaces with a table in the middle and their lighting set up and their green screen or whatever, their set pieces, and then they have these shotgun microphones that are pointed down, and they're doing a little bit of like reflection rejection with their audio processing in there, but it's wide enough where the reflections from the conversations, usually they're pointed directly down, the reflections from the conversations they're having off of the table, right? The audio is going to bounce off the table. But the reflections coming off the walls are going to be rejected through the sides of the shotgun mics. So that's a good use for those. You got to be really careful with the gain and the staging of that microphone just to make sure that you're not getting a kind of quick little bounce off of the table into the capsule. But if you point it straight like mine is, which I rarely use this microphone is the NTG2, right? Yeah, NTG2 shotgun microphone. It's a Rode mic, and it has my little dead cat on here. Don't tell my daughter I say that because she'll be mortified. But this is a great little shotgun microphone, but is ideal for being outdoors because inside it picks up too many reflections, but outside it's a very accurate, pointable microphone. So I have this mic. I don't use it very much, but it's a good one, but only really for outside stuff, which I could have taken it, I guess, to camp to give it a go, but Octo as in 8. Yes, gotcha. The 897, sorry. Yeah, the AT897 shotgun mic. Got it. That is the one that I believe we pulled up here. But anyways, looks like a great mic. I had an Audio Technica shotgun mic for a while. It didn't last too long, but I didn't spend very much money on it. It was my first ever microphone purchase of that sort of production level. And I was wanting to get into video stuff. This was long ago. This would have been back in like 2010. And I had no money to purchase any sort of audio equipment. And so I purchased audio equipment. You know how that goes. Hey, let's go ahead and refill my mug at least halfway because my coffee's getting cold. But beautiful thing about this is it's still sticking red hot because I'm using a thermos. Today's non-sponsor, Tim Hortons Coffee. We used to be Canadian. The person that I shoot doesn't want to sit around a lot. I went with the shotgun first to mount it from the ceiling. So, this is an interesting idea that we've been toying around with at the soundstage that I work at. We have a position where a microphone usually stands, like a mic stand, and people stand up there and kind of hide behind it, ironically, because it's a teeny tiny mic stand. It has like one of those handle triggers. And what we've thought about doing is getting a shotgun microphone and putting it down on a little like pentagraph or something like that, mounting it kind of out into the audience. And there's an interesting idea. Mounting it out to, sorry, you just watched my brain sort something out. mounting it out in the audience and then pointing it at that spot. So if we need a microphone on stage, then they could just stand on a mark on the stage and we could capture the audio as we wanted to with a shotgun microphone. But we have not done that project yet, and partially because the microphone we have right now is working just fine. I don't, it's not urgent. There's no necessary necessity for that. And so that's why we haven't done it. However, I would love to do it because it would clean up the stage a little more. And I'm all about having a clean visual look to my shot. So I don't necessarily like having a lot of things in the frame that are more than the subject. Now, ironically, I have a microphone in my frame, but we've done a lot of testing with different microphones, and I just cannot get away from this thing. I love this microphone. It is the best microphone I own, first of all, and it's my favorite one to listen to as of right now, and was within my budget. It was between this and the SMB 58. Is that the one that it is? That podcast microphone. And I decided to go with the radio announcer microphone instead of the podcaster microphone. Anyway, so the idea is kind of what it is that you're talking about here, CNS piece. To mount the microphone kind of in the audience, and then that gives you kind of a cone radius to record. And you can kind of give them a parameter on the floor. Hey, stand in this zone, and the microphone will pick you up, and then we'll work with it. I would love to move to something like that because, again, when people are presenting, I just want it to be the person. I don't want SM7B. Thank you. I don't want the microphone to distract, and I find that it does. Me personally, I think people don't know how to use the microphone stand to start with. People don't know how to talk into a microphone stand. They do this number where I went up and I gave a presentation on stage and I talked into the microphone and they're doing this and it's like coming, the volume level, like my sound guy's constantly riding the fader, or they get there and the microphone's like this, in front of their face, and they don't think, hey, I should move that so that the cameras can see me. I would just like to remove the technical requirements for the people participating on stage so that more people can participate with less technical requirement. That's what I want. So how do you do that? Well, you can use shotgun microphones to do that. And there were some at NAB that we had seen 2 years ago, and I think this year, but we didn't go and listen to them like we did the first year, but there was a microphone that we listened to. The issue with shotgun mics is the further back you place them, the more ambient sound they pick up. And so if it's, just off frame, that's one thing. If it's further back in the room and you've cranked up the gain, you're going to get a lot of background sound. And so you got to play with it. You got to get it to where it's perfectly just off frame so that it can hear your subject and no one else. But that just takes time, man. It just takes time to get the right microphone and then to perfect the position of that mic. Sounds like a lapel mic may be a better option. Yes and no. This is in 777's comment. I say yes, it may be a better option. However, that takes prep and setup time, technical setup time. You have to, for example, you can't have somebody unplanned go up on stage and, you have to mic them. You have to make sure that it's all set to go. If you had a zone where the audio just worked, you could put anybody up there and just say, stand up there, wait for the red camera, wait for tally to turn red, and off you go. Pants down. Yeah, so this, we still use this phrase. On my technical crew, I have a pentagraph, which is an accordion style lift that lowers cam 3 into position and once service starts. So service begins, the welcome bumper goes, the welcome video goes, and I hit the pants down button, and the pentagraph pants goes down to a set position. And then at the end of service, my sound guy always says, hey, pants up. And I press the pants up button and off we go. There's got to be a way to automate it, but that's a next level of automation that I don't know if I'm quite ready for. The SM7B, thank you, Angus, for that. Angus True. We have an El Cheapo lapel. It was a toss-up on the purchase, a shotgun for multi-use or a lapel for mainly the garage, but we chose the shotgun first. SM7B is so much more than just a podcast mic. They're very common in radio, right up there with the RE20. I know, I'm generalizing, by the way. And a matter of fact, the SM7B is used in a lot of recording studios just for its dynamic range. And it has a really great kind of like a really great recording range in terms of making things sound natural. I love the proximity rejection of the RE20, whereas the SM7B, that's one of its great features, is when you get up on that microphone, it sounds like that person's like talking in your ears. This one, I can get extremely close, and it still keeps the proximity. It rejects the proximity, and that's what all of this business is on this microphone. So it makes it captures the entirety of my voice without making it sound like I'm interrogating you or something like that. And I actually don't mind proximity effect. I think that's kind of a cool feature, and I'm not downplaying that at all. I just think this one is perfect for what it is that I want it to do, and so I like the RE20 for that reason, and I would buy it again if I had to. There is another RE. What's it called? There's another version of it, RE20. It's called the 320 or something like that, right? Yeah, the RE320, and it's the same body, but it's a little cheaper. And what's the difference? Oh, there. Hang on. I'm going to pull up a compare option here. Compare, and we're going to compare mine other than price. All right, here we go. So we're going to compare these two microphones just for funsies. Okay, so we are 150 ohms. The RE20, the frequency response is 45 hertz up to 18. The 320 is 30 hertz. Okay. XLR, a little lighter. That comparison is not great. All right, so if you know what the difference is between these two microphones, please put it in the chat, because Sweetwater fails me again. Now, time for coffee. Okay, so why? I mean, I think I've made a pretty good case for using a 3DO microphone. I think having this as a versatile option, especially at the price point of what I say, $399, $450 by the time you get it home. Having this as an option in your recording fleet really can't do you too wrong. There are other microphones out there that do ambient sound. They're becoming a little more prevalent because of VR and AR and all of this stuff that's coming out for creating virtual environments or adding to augmented environments, which is what those all mean. But virtual environments, I find, for example, when you're recording in 360, it's very neat to have accurate audio in 3D space, meaning that if you record on a X5, did you see that Insta360 just launched the X6? So Insta360 X6 is now on the horizon, evidently. It's a little shorter. Not too sure. Again, I missed the entire launch. Whoops. Make sure that I didn't press an extra button here. Okay, I missed the entire launch of this, which shows you how much I'm paying attention. But if we go to buy now, and then we go to the X5 and we say buy now, okay, the X6 is running for $699. Ooh. And the X5 is currently running at $464. So $85 off on Amazon. That's better. If it were down in the 300s, I might, contemplate getting one. But what are we getting with the X6 other than inspiration in every direction, 8K 50 frames, extreme battery life, 5K at 30 frames, Oh, look, Peter McKinnon. Speaking of Canadians, 14.5 stops. So I'm going to wait for the 360 reviewers to come out with their assessment on these before I make any sort of judgment calls. But this was a great camera. I mean, I saw lots of stuff on this. And so if it comes down in price, then I'm not mad about that, right? Because I don't want to break the bank on a camera that has a half-life. The life cycle of these cameras is maddening, says Angus. Has a half-life of like a year. And it looks like Insta360 has gotten into a every year or every 2-year launch cycle, which isn't great because, as Apple can tell you, you really don't make any changes in that amount of time. Inventing things is almost impossible. Inventing things on a timetable is impossible. Inventing things that validate a $700 purchase is crazy. This camera needs to be $599, but that's just me. Now this is the X5. The X6 is the new one. I'm not really too sure why anyone would want to spend that sort of price when the X5 is, but let's wait for the reviewers and I'll check that out and discuss that on another show. Anyways, with the constant progress of 360 video, it's very helpful then to have 360 audio, which is what that is. That is recording audio in all directions. So if you are able to attach it somehow to the same camera that's recording video and audio, you're capturing the entire scene. You can wear headphones, or on the headsets for VR, they have headphones, not great ones. So, plug in good headphones if you want a better experience. But it creates an entire 360 environment, not just visually, but audio as well, which completes kind of the entire experience. I did a little project once. It was a test back in 2022 where I was planning on taking my kids to Alaska, unbeknownst to them. And so we went to the park, and I got this rig kind of all put together where I was going to record video and audio all at the same time. It sounds like a tractor is rolling by outside. Video and audio together, and was just going to see how, that sounded, essentially. Where is it, though? Videos? No. Sorry, I'm looking for the actual file, because I actually did film it and put it all together in post. It took a little bit of practice. What's nice is on these 360 cameras, I have an Evo, which is super old, but on these cameras, they have audio, and that you can use that then as the reference. So it records video and audio, and then you record 3D audio on a little field recorder or something, and you can match them up, and then you mute the audio from the crappy audio from the camera and use the 3D audio, and then you have this really impressive, soundscape. So I was able to do that at a park that we went to, and it was great. Did I do that on the cruise? Absolutely not. I was not able to take the time to set it up. I should have been thinking more about run and gun, and I think I was attempting to think about run and gun, but it was just too much. And it needed to be a faster setup than it ended up being, because you got to make sure the microphone's on, make sure that the pack is on, make sure that it's recording, make sure you're getting audio. Then you got to turn on the camera, and you got to sync it to your phone, and you got to hit record and make sure it's working correctly. And it was just too many checks. And so I did record 360 video when we were there, but I did not. Let me see here. So let me see if I can share this somewhat with you. So I recorded 360 video while I was there on the ship in Alaska, but this is an actual 360. This is playing through VLC. But this video was just recorded on our balcony, and it was great. But the audio that you're hearing is strictly the audio from the microphone on board, and it did not have like a windscreen or anything like that, so it's awful. And shocker, Alaska is a little windy. Doesn't matter what time you're there. So that was it's great to have those memories captured in 360 or 180 or however it is that however it is you choose to capture them on whatever camera you have. But we definitely, oh yeah, this is an interesting one. This is the gyroscope inside the camera was leveling out so you can see the horizon changing. But yeah, here we are. Are we sitting on the balcony? No, our balcony's empty here. So 360 video of us sailing. We were headed towards Victoria, I think, on this day. And, oh no, sailing to Skagway. So we were headed north still. But again, the audio here I don't know if you can hear the audio or not. Yeah, it's coming through a little bit. That audio is just off the microphone on board, and it wasn't great. So I wished also there was a way to synchronize the audio with, like, embed the audio in the camera. But these action cameras that people are coming out with are just not built for that. So it's a shame. It's a feature that I hope they decide on soon, because that would be extremely helpful. But anyways, having 360 videos of our trip, man, we've watched these hundreds of times. They're huge files, but we've shared these with our kids. They were on this trip in 2022, but our trip that we took in 19, again, to Alaska, I have shared those videos with my kids tons of times. And it's so fun to put those headsets on and walk next to the cruise ship again, that huge, the huge cruise ship, or go and see the places you saw. If you just record it with a 360 video, you don't even have to worry about framing. Just put it over your shoulder or above your head or in front of you. Just remember that you're going to record everything that the camera, so whatever level, if you're holding it at eye height, it's going to be looking right back at you, for the most part. But that's why I usually put it over my shoulder. In 2019, I was carrying my kids on my shoulders. Like, I'd put them on my shoulders and their little legs, and I'd hold their legs and I'd walk around with them. Well, we took the trip and we didn't have our kids with us. So what I did is I put the camera over my shoulder as if they were sitting on my shoulders walking around in Alaska. So I thought that was kind of an idea that, it would feel familiar to them in some regard when they watched it. Anyway, so 360 video is great. We got to figure out a way to embed audio. I believe let me look here on this new camera. I want to see the photos. Where are the photos of this camera? Somebody is outside running a machine, like a tractor or something. So, okay. So this is not helpful. We'll go to Amazon. There may be a microphone jack on this now, because people clip them, use the little lapel mics. And if there was, that'd be great. You can put it on the pole and you can wrap the wire around the pole and then plug it into the recording device, the 3DO microphone. That would be ideal. X5 Insta360. And yep, currently down in price. Let's just look for photos. I think you can. Why? Guys. Actually, I'm certain you can now, because because they have a mount for those little clip-on microphones. Even that would be better than the microphones on board the actual camera itself, using the Rode Go's microphones or something like that. But if you're going to go to all that trouble of having the rod, you might as well have your 3DO on there, and that would simplify it. Turn on the microphone, hit record, off you go. That would be ideal. And if my wife and I ever get on a cruise again, I will probably do something like that, where it's faster, it's synced up to the video right away, so you just export the video and the audio is already matched up, ready to go. The Zoom H3 VR is specifically built to pair up with 360 cameras. Now this is that one that has the little like pyramid on the top of it, right? Yeah. Capturing audio. The only thing that this one doesn't do... Wait a minute. Why didn't it come up? Is it not for sale anymore? Oh, here it is. The only thing that this microphone, I think, doesn't do that the 3DO does is shape the audio waves so that sounds like your ears. I think it captures the audio perfectly in all directions, but I don't think that it has the ability to capture it the way your ears hear it, because they're just flat microphones. So the waves are hitting the microphones in the correct location in the sound space, but the waveforms are not being shaped the way that your ears hear them. So with headphones, it would still not be exactly as a 3DO microphone, but this would do like 98% of the job. There's no problem with that. It would still be worth it for sure. Now that microphone, I don't see it available on Amazon, so I'd have to buy it from Sweetwater or something like that. Also not too sure about mounting options for this. There is a threaded mount on the bottom, and it looks a little smaller than the 3DO microphone. So for travel or in a freight case or something like that, that might be ideal. You can even get a dead cat for the top of it. But again, I don't see it available over here on the Amazon conglomerate. So prices are high. It may just be that they're out of stock and having trouble acquiring the microphones through the tariffs and all that stuff. With the ambisonic audio, it can do head tracked, but without the ear simulation. Oh, that's fun. So it can do head tracked audio. So the way that I do this head tracking, right, is that you don't get head tracking when you record it when you record a 360 video with the headset or with the 3DO microphone. The reason why these ears are backwards is because I mount this on the bottom of the microphone, or the bottom of the monopod, and I mount it like this so that the microphones are still left and right, but the ears are the correct way up. And it mounts to the bottom of the little monopod in a little quick shoe, right? And I just tighten that on. And then I have the access to the controls, which are then on the front. So you can flip it on, turn on your field recorder, and off you go. The problem is that in the VR headset, if you are watching the video afterwards and I'm walking down the street recording, if I turn my head, the audio doesn't follow my head turning. And I haven't figured out a way necessarily to solve that problem. But that is like the pinnacle of VR tracking, right? Is that this left and right is facing forward. And so when I turn my head to the left, I need the audio to pan, that much farther over, which would be amazing. Yeah, that's a trade-off that probably can't be solved for 360. Agreed. I wish the mini XLR port would be used more by manufacturers instead of the 3.5 jack. Analog audio is still a major part of my setup. I'm tired of adapters and Y cables. You can get the XLR version of this microphone, but you will pay the price. That's what this FreeSpace XLR is, and it is $649, whereas the FreeSpace is $400. So if you want those jacks, you can actually get true left and right. Okay, look at that. And that's great. You do end up paying the price. You get all the jacks, actually, which is amazing. You can do either or, and that's very handy. But yeah, XLR comes with a price, and you could probably add XLR jacks to this board. Like, it's not a very complicated board inside if you wanted to monkey with your $400 purchase, because those jacks are only like $10 each or something like that, or $5 each. So there's that. With an ambisonic audio, it can do tracked audio, head tracked, but without the ear simulation. Yeah, that's so interesting. That is a very interesting idea, and a problem that I probably won't have the brain power to apply and solve. But yeah, I think having the 3D audio sound space inside a VR headset is the ultimate in rewatching your family videos. If you can capture both of those, it's amazing. Another thing that's really nice about having a heavier microphone on the bottom of your monopod is that it holds it upright pretty much for you. You just have to hold it. Whereas when the camera's at the top and you have nothing on the bottom, the microphone, you tend to lean forward on the microphone, which is fine if that's what you want. But This basically just means you just have to hold a pole. You don't have to point it anywhere or worry about, it just always holds it straight up. Now, the gyrosphere inside of the camera, inside the Insta360 cameras, corrects that. So if you're holding it forward, it still records like it looks like it's straight up and down. It compensates for that. But the, having that microphone on the bottom basically just means you just hold it and it records all the time. And if you turn on the audio, it'll record the audio, and that would be awesome. I'm not sure about monitoring the audio, how that's done, because I like to know what it is that I'm actually recording. So whether or not those audio bars appear in the monitor for the Insta360 app, which I don't have access to right now because I don't have one of those cameras, but the X5 would be far better than the Evo, a big step ahead. And I don't think that on the surface, I don't think that the purchase price of the X6 would validate me spending an extra several $100s just to have the latest, But the X5, as it becomes less and less available, maybe that price will come down on Good Friday, not quite, on Black Friday, and you can get it for $400 or something like that. That would be awesome. So remind me to save my pennies near November. Maybe I'll get a new camera. Anyway, so that's that. That's essentially my take on binaural audio. Binaural? Binaural? Hang on, I got to scroll down to where Angus gave me a helpful insight. Binaural audio, yeah. So that's my take on it. I find that there is a place and a time. There is definitely use cases for it. I'm not using this microphone all the time. I'm not getting it out at every recording. I'm not suggesting that you use it. But it is one of those microphones that if you have it in your arsenal, it can definitely... What you could do is continue to record the way that you record, but add this microphone and record it on a separate channel and just see what you get. Man, you might be surprised at how good it sounds, and you may want to use it from here on in. It really does simplify recording, especially live events. We just got back from a trip earlier this month, and I used it, and the editing, I took out some of the background noise, but I had very nice thick windscreens on there that stopped the gusty Northern Ontario wind that came across the lake. They worked perfectly for that. Beautiful. And kept everything nice and quiet on the recording, and we could just hear, our keynote and our participants, but also the loons and the train that passed by. But for having a discussion, this worked amazingly well, and I strongly recommend it if you're doing recordings. And you can pitch it as I can record the audio from your event to sound as if you were there over and over and over again. You just got to wear headphones when you listen to it. And that is a billable service, my friend. And honestly, there's not too much magic behind it. So there you go. Pretty excited about any sort of stories that you guys have doing 3D audio. If you're watching this after the fact, let me know what your experiences have been. Check out those 2 videos that I put in the chat early in the show. Those ones are the 2 videos that convinced me to buy something like this and get into this world. And I have really enjoyed it. It's been great. So hopefully you have found that beneficial. Hey, we talked for an hour. And I need to end on time because I am under the weather today. I got lots of work to do. And I need to probably go take another Tylenol. So we'll wrap it up and leave it at that. I don't know what we're going to talk about next week, by the way. Last week I did a 3-hour show on my home automation system and how awesome it is. I can confirm that it is still pretty awesome. Let me, somebody keeps calling me from here. I need to just send it to voicemail. Anyway, we have had I had a great show last week. Nobody really stuck around for the second half, which is where I started programming things. But if you're interested at all, that show is a little long, and I talk about Home Assistant, and I talk about how it is that we kind of set up Home Assistant to do various things. And so I've got a couple of touch panels that I could show you. The one that I was working on last week is the touch panel here in the bonus room for my theater controls. I can share that one because there's nothing really on here that is concerning. 3 of the buttons on the web UI don't work, but they work just fine over on the actual touch panel that I have there. But you might notice that this is an LCARS setup, and all of these buttons are active. So if you want to open the barn door or garage door, you can do that from here. There is a sequence that you have to do there, so it's not just anybody and everybody can hack my system and open the garage doors. But I have, my subwoofer, a headphone amp that runs there underneath the system, my lights. So I have a ceiling fan that's currently running because it's over 80 degrees in here. But there's a table lamp, there's a tall lamp, there's recessed lights that are here in the room. They're not very bright right now. All of these are clickable, and they have indications as to when it is they are on and off. And with the help of Tailscale VPN, I can access all this anywhere I want to be. Then these are the TV controls. So if I want to watch a movie, if I want to watch Chromecast, if I want to do turn up the volume or something like that, I can click on those buttons over here. These are more like alarm buttons, but for some reason they don't show up correctly on this screen. Like I said, they're working fine on the touch panel. The touch panel I actually approach and it turns on. So it has like detection. So when you walk up to it, it turns on its own. And when you walk away and you're not in front of it, the screen is off and it's currently plugged in, so it's charging. Yeah, pretty great. When I am ready to start the live stream, I click this live stream button and all my lights turn on. And I click it again and all my lights turn off and on. So when I'm ready to do that, I have a touch panel now that I just click the button and it works just fine. So this has been a lot of fun, and this is the simplest screen that I have in my house. I have several others, one monitor, and then I'm going to have other touch panels, one in my new office space, which should be we should be thinking late September. I should be moving out there, I'm hoping. Money is the question. But yes, we're moving along in the home automation realm. I've recently upgraded to a micro Dell computer that's running Linux Home Assistant OS as its only operating system. That thing is way more stronger than any Raspberry Pi that I was using before. Raspberry Pis are now just running display screens, but this system is pretty powerful. And it was a good investment to buy the computer to do the things that I need to do. I can rack mount that computer, so it just runs headless, and all that stuff can be accessed here on this screen. So I love me some LCARS. I'm very excited that this has become a reality for me. My family monitor is set up this way, which is down in the living room. It shows stats on the house, and it shows our family photos, and it shows our calendar. All of it, of course, has the LCARS design. So it's been pretty fun. It's been a fun little project. This week has not been as intense making this as last week. Last week I spent a lot of time doing it. This week I haven't really done too much. I've tinkered a little bit here and there, but not really a whole lot. So this has been great, and it's been working really well. So I'm happy about that. So I'm a big advocate of Home Assistant. All of the customizations, that's open source, and so there's not just one company, Samsung, supporting it, and that means there are regular updates that happen all the time. My system is set up in a way where it notifies me that there's an update, and I can choose to do it or skip it, depending on what the notes say. But yeah, this has been pretty great, and I really like this a lot. So thanks a lot for coming along for the ride, folks. It's been a blast, and I've enjoyed this show. Again, I don't know what I'm going to talk about next week, but hopefully I'll be feeling better, and then we can go down that rabbit hole. I just got done a project actually for a church through an integrator that I work with, and so all those switches are sitting here cold, waiting to go out to the warehouse, but they're all configured. And sidebar, I learned something. Switches don't work when you kick the SFP Plus port and break the fiber. I had a client that called me yesterday, was saying, hey, I randomly have lost one of my switches. I don't know what's going on. After some investigation, we found out somebody had destroyed one of his armored fiber cables by running it over, we think, with like a shopping cart or something, and or a luggage cart, and completely destroyed the wire. So he replaced that and everything came back up. But we discovered, there's a bonus for anybody who's still hanging around, we discovered that if you are running 2 access points on 2 switches, they will connect wirelessly to each other over that VLAN. So what was wild was that his default VLAN is his management VLAN, right? And that's where the majority of his data network is. But his access points are isolated to their own VLAN so that clients and whoever and his team can get on the internet and access wirelessly, but stay separate from the rest of his network. Well, what had happened was when the fiber optic armored cable got destroyed, the switch started talking to another switch that was connected to the same VLAN in a different room, and the damaged switch that was offline connected wirelessly over that VLAN back to Engage. So Engage could see the switch, and when I pulled it up, it showed that it was online, but it was trunked, it was lagged, auto-lagged, through the access point through the port that the access point was on. Meaning that, in theory, you could connect switches, I wouldn't recommend it, but you could connect switches to each other over wireless access points, and they become trunks, which is bizarre. But I told him I didn't know it could do that, but not because I don't recommend it, but because I didn't ever think to try that. And maybe not in an NDI or a Dante or whatever environment, but maybe in a pinch, if you need a data network to get over there, you could put access points as trunks on 2 of those switches, and that switch would be online as long as it was getting a decent Wi-Fi signal. Anyways, it was bizarre that that's the way it turned out. But I was very surprised to learn that. Of course, that wasn't going to work for him, and they found the damaged cable. They replaced it. Everything came up. Everything started working. We manually lagged all of his connections from his primary core off to his branches or the leafs on the network. So it's a spine and leaf situation where you have a core, and then each one has a trunk or a lag or a dual lag to, every individual switch, which is a great little design. But if that leg gets damaged, physically gets damaged, layer 1, then obviously it's going to drop. So it was a very interesting discovery, and I promised him that I would mention something today on the show because we were all very confused and amazed, and it was bizarre. Hey, feel better soon, John. Thank you, Angus. I really appreciate that. Much appreciated. Thanks for hanging out in the show and keeping the chat going. You guys have been great today. Hey, that's just awesome. Yeah, that was in regards to the my LCAR stuff. Yeah, mini PCs are the way to go. Agreed. And it wasn't really that expensive, and I'm probably going to end up buying a couple more when I move out to the office. Not for Home Assistant, but for other purposes. Not every AP can do that, but it sure is handy when they can. It's true. Whoops, sorry. I had a cable cut last summer, and my Unify AP self-healed the network, which severely reduced performance. It was great as an emergency recovery measure. Yeah, and it was helpful because I could still get into the switch for that one that was remotely connected and see the lag is down, but we're actually auto-lagged through the Wi-Fi network. And so he's like, wait a minute. So he went to the switch and sure enough found the damaged port and fixed it, and we all got up and running again. But I just thought that was so bizarre. I've never seen it do that before. Again, not that it can't do that. I've never thought, I'm going to connect all these switches wirelessly. Can't be good for performance. But there's no QoS, right? So maybe. Okay, folks, I'm going to peace out. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I've really appreciated it, and thanks for all your additions to the show. You are a valued member of my community, and I appreciate you keep coming back for every single one. I don't know what next week's going to be about. Let me think about it, and it won't be about Home Assistant. I'll give a little break. We'll talk a little bit every week about Home Assistant, but I won't do that necessarily next week. But appreciate you guys coming along. We'll have a new show next week, as long as the Lord wills it, as long as I'm still around. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and take care of each other. We'll see you guys soon. All right. Have a great week, guys. Bye.